all the different pieces add up to create a home that's like way better than any home on the market, but way more affordable to the end consumer. So that enables people to live closer, to be closer with their neighbors, to be more connected with nature, to actually create villages and rethink the way we build communities and villages. So they don't have to be these like cookie cutter boxes that are just spread out in the suburbs that are like, that inspire no connection between your neighbors. Like we can actually rethink the way we build communities in a way that enhances people's lives and makes their lives more beautiful, more fulfilling, more meaningful. We're not building a company to get rich or make money here. We're building it to like really change the way we live as humans on this planet and really improve how the built world could make this world a better place.
Welcome to the Regenerative Real Estate Podcast, a show about human environments and how they can be used as a force for good. Conversations that educate and inspire people looking for a different way to do real estate. I'm Neal Collins, and on this episode, I sit down with Micha Mikailian, CEO of Geoship, to explore how they're building a scalable, affordable, and environmentally sensitive model for geodesic dome homes. In 1954, architect, systems thinker, and futurist Buckminster Fuller created the first geodesic dome. He believed that society's biggest challenges, housing, energy, food, resource scarcity, couldn't be solved by tweaking the current system. We needed entirely new models. You probably heard his famous quote, "To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And the geodesic dome was one of Fuller's many attempts at that. It was radically different, lighter, stronger, more efficient, and supposedly cheaper to build and maintain than traditional homes. He believed that they could scale easily and change how we live. But domes never really went mainstream. They leaked, builders didn't know how to construct them, the shape was hard to furnish, and let's be honest, most people just didn't love the way they looked. And I'll come clean. I've never had a deep affinity for domes myself. I don't buy the idea that a round shape automatically makes for biophilic design. My bias comes from a deep love of beautiful architecture, spaces that radiate wholeness. I've rarely felt that in a dome, and it's made it hard for me to imagine dome-filled neighborhoods or dome-based communities. But now is exactly the time Fuller was talking about, a time when we desperately need new models, ones that offer affordability, health, and environmental harmony. That's what drew me to today's guest, Micha Mikailian of Geoship. This conversation wasn't just about domes, it was about the deeper story of the company, how the organization is being built, where it's headed, and whether it can actually offer a real solution for this moment in time. And I've got to say, after talking with Micha, I have shifted from skeptic to fan. And while they certainly hope that it does, Geoship might not actually need to go mainstream in order to succeed. They remind me of Kevin Kelly's idea of 1,000 true fans, the idea that creators don't need millions of followers. They just need a dedicated core who truly believe in the mission and spread the word. You see, before they've even shipped their first dome, Geoship is proving this out. They've built a massive pre-sales pipeline worth hundreds of millions of dollars of domes because they have found their 1,000 true fans. It's early days for them, no doubt, but something real seems to be happening there. So now I'm curious, would you, dear listener, live in a geodesic dome? I'll be posting a poll on LinkedIn and I would love to hear your take. Follow me to stay tuned in to future ideas and plans I want to roll out with the show, behind the scenes updates on our development, advisory, and investment firm, Hamlet Capital, and the cool work that we're doing through our brokerage, Latitude, to connect people to their own sanctuaries. So without further ado, let's get into it with Micha Mikailian of Geoship. I'd love to kick us off because there's a couple threads that I want to pull on. One, I did not realize that Geoship was founded on Whidbey Island, which is where I am calling in from and recording this. So we're going to pick that up. But, trying to do prep for this show, it's going to be about Geoship. And I love what you guys are doing. And I think there's so many different interesting facets that we can take it. But I need to understand who I'm talking to, first of all. And it looks like you have been on a roller coaster ride of an entrepreneurial journey with such a deep experience. Where do we pick that beginning piece up for you? Like what originally drew you into entrepreneurship? Maybe that's a good first question to lob at
Oh
you.
man, that's going really back there. Yeah. I'll tell you, like the origin of my entrepreneurial journey. I was 12 years old. I had grown up in a really wealthy family, and we had a huge change in our kind of financial situation. And I was just kind of getting everything I wanted. And all of a sudden now it's like we're moving out of our nice house into a smaller apartment, and like this whole shift happened. And I asked my mom for the new Air Jordans, and she said, "Sorry, we can't afford those anymore." And I just wasn't okay with taking that as an answer. So I went out and started my first business at 12 years old, and I haven't stopped. So I had three different businesses in high school, and I was actually doing really well financially in high school. I actually got up to like a six-figure income in high school, which was pretty insane. And then I built my first internet company in the dot-com era, and everything that I touched early in my career just kind of turned to gold. And then in my 20s, I like lost it all and went totally broke, and had a big like humbling experience where I had to like really find myself as an entrepreneur and as a leader and really start learning. I think I got lucky in a lot of my like first swings where I just happened to like be on the right thing at the right time. Then from there, I built some more companies. I built one of the first digital marketing agencies that was doing like social media marketing and Google search marketing. And we built that company up to running over $100 million a year in ad spend. And I helped build a software company to over $80 million a year in revenue with like 200 plus people. And it was about that time I actually had a big awakening, and like I started doing a lot of personal development work and really realizing that I was doing this for like the wrong reasons. Like I was doing it to like try to prove myself to the world. And it was a lot of it, what I was accomplishing and achieving was fed by like my ego and my identity. From that point, I actually took a step back. I sold that company I was running and just kind of took a look at my life from like a new lens of what do I actually want to create? Like, what do I want to contribute to the world? Really getting more aware of the world's problems, really was looking at entrepreneurship as a way to kind of help make this world a better place. That was a little bit of a long answer, but yeah, it's been a journey, a lot of highs, lots of lows, but I'm always having a great time no matter what's happening. So
Do you find that entrepreneurship is innate to you, or did you have to really figure out and apply and study the principles of what makes a business tick?
both. I think I've always had a high tolerance for risk. I've always have a high tolerance for pain. And, I think that's really important for entrepreneurs to be gritty and to be willing to like walk through the fire, so to speak. So I think naturally, just in like the way I was brought up and a lot of the situations I dealt with as a child just kind of prepared me to be an entrepreneur. You learn a lot along the way. I mean, everyone's journey is different. I didn't learn how to be a leader until I was in my fourth company. Before that, it was very kind of like me just dictating what we're doing and not really like leading and learning how to work through others and how to scale. And then it was after that I really I started working with a business coach, and he was studying to be a Buddhist monk before he left that journey to like become a business coach. And he really helped me big time in like finding my leadership and discovering who I was like behind all the different stories and BS that was like running my life. That was like the real kind of transformational arc of the journey.
Do you find that there are patterns that you bring into different companies, no matter what the business is? You bring these tools every single time into the organization you're working with?
I like to tell all entrepreneurs really like figure out like what are your unique gifts? What are you uniquely qualified to contribute to companies, and really focus in on those and find other people that have the complementary gifts needed to make the business work. I think too many entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to be like Elon, or I'm going to be like this, or I'm going to be like this guy, or I'm going to be like Steve Jobs. And they kind of model the way they behave and act and make decisions around that. But to me, it's about knowing yourself and what your strengths are. So my strengths are being able to see the world through everybody else's lens around me and really get in their world. And because of that, I'm able to like find the teams that are going to work really well together and to assemble those teams, cohere those teams, and lead those teams in a way where I give a lot of trust. I hire like really exceptional people, give them a lot of trust, and support them in building the coherence between the teams that make magic happen. Very different than how other entrepreneurs might lead, but that's where my gifts are, and that's what works for me. So I focus on that. I focus on building phenomenal teams. I'm a really great problem solver, so I try to like figure out what are the core problems all the different teams are dealing with, and often I'll have like a different perspective or lens that people haven't put that frame on and thought about things in that way. So I try to focus on teams, problem solving, and really sales, like business development and key fundraising relationships, those kind of things that really move the needle in terms of getting the resources you need to succeed as a business. Like those are the things I'm good at. So like I'm not a technical leader. I don't have an engineering background. I know enough to understand like what my teams are doing. I have some great advisors that support balancing that out for me. But I think any entrepreneur, it's like really figuring out what your gifts and talents are and focusing in on that.
How do you think that differs from an entrepreneur that they've got that seed of an idea within them and they identify themselves as a visionary? Do you come in at the ideation phase, or do you come in a little bit more established company that they understand what they're doing, but they need that extra bit of leadership?
I think the 0 to 1 phase is really hard no matter which way you cut it. You're going to be forced to do things you don't want to do. You got to get good at things you're not good at. So at some level as an entrepreneur, you have to kind of be the Swiss Army knife because you're just not going to break out of that 0 to 1 phase. You can find some co-founders that really complement your skill sets and your talents that fill in some of your gaps. You can lean on advisors to do that. But really, I think self-awareness is like a superpower. I think my entrepreneurial career really took off like once I started investing in myself and being more self-aware. If anything, I think that's like probably the best investment I ever made in my career.
Let's now merge this with Geoship. What originally attracted you to that company, and how did that go down?
Yeah, no, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll kind of bring in the whole story arc. So after I had this kind of like awakening type experience where I really started to get to know myself and do a lot of like the personal journey and the personal development work, I started talking to people around like different kind of systemic problems and really looking at like what's the core of some of our problems and as a species. And at that time, I also was selling a company and I just happened to like watch this documentary on happiness one night. And this documentary like talked all about like communal living and how people living in community were some of the happiest people in the world. And I just like fell in love with that concept. And I was like, wow, there's so much at the root here with the community. So after watching that documentary, I was really inspired to find my community. I found my community. I found my people, a group of people in San Diego that I just like totally fell in love with. And I really became obsessed with the idea of like co-living and community living. That was a 7-year journey from like when I decided that's the way I wanted to live, like I wanted to live in community, to getting married, started having kids, convinced my wife that this was a good idea. And and then, we actually bought 100 acres of land. It was a regenerative village that was stewarded by a family for 5 generations. It had 8 homes on it. And we bought this land. We moved there with some friends. And then COVID happened. And this is in Nevada City, where Geoship's based, in Nevada City, Grass Valley area. And COVID happened, and a bunch of our friends started showing up on this land, and they're like, "Oh my God, you guys are having the best COVID. Things suck in the city. Like, we just want to stay here." And so, like, all of a sudden, all our friends started showing up. They were like buying RVs and parking them on our land. And before I knew it, we were having like a party, and it was just like a bunch of people hanging out, having a great time, working on the land, planting gardens. We were enjoying ourselves while most people were like locked in their homes, and we were just outside in this beautiful nature on this regenerative paradise. And it's around that time I was like, man, I need more houses here. This would be great to be able to share this with more people. We had all this land, and I started researching all the different housing companies that were thinking from first principles and coming up with new housing solutions. And I made multiple investments in the industry. When I found Geoship, I was like, wow, this idea really resonates with me. Like it just felt right. It's like, wow, all natural materials. I love the geometry. I love being in like round structures. I used to have a circular house, and I absolutely love that house. So I started connecting with Geoship. I pre-ordered some domes. just so happened they happened to be in the same town I was in. So I started reaching out to the founders. We met for the first time. We hit it off. They asked me to become an advisor on the company. So I started advising them. And it just went from there. Before I knew it, they asked me to come join and run the company and be the CEO. And for me, I was in this like space of like creating my community and my life and kind of semi-retired, having just sold a company. And I was thinking like my kids were really young. Maybe I was going to work part-time and just kind of advise people and do some consulting work until my kids got older. But I just found myself like not being able to sleep at night because I was so excited about what Geoship was doing. And to me, it was like this choiceless choice. It was like this vision that I was creating for my family. So we can be living on this land and the kids could be with their grandparents every day and they could be going to school with their best friends and my wife could teach them in our schoolhouse and we could be like picking our food from the gardens and this life we were living. I'm like, this life is not accessible to most people. It's like I was very aware that we're in a very privileged place to be able to afford to do this. And for me, I was just like, I have an opportunity to actually make that real for millions of people who currently can't afford to do that because this technology is game changing. It could really lower the barriers to entry to community, to housing, to healthy living. For me, it was like almost a perfect thing. Yeah, it's been a wild ride since then, but that's kind of the arc.
It's going to be a pretty big decision to found a company and then step aside in the CEO role. What is the roots of the company? Why did they take that path of saying, okay, let's have our advisor run the company?
Yeah, I can't speak for them, but I'll share the kind of origin story. So Morgan and Boss, they actually, Morgan and his brother were the original founders of Geoship. Morgan's like just an incredible visionary, one of the most insane visionaries I've ever worked with. And he has a way of like actually like seeing the future, but like being there already, like as if it's real and grounding himself in that future. And he had this beautiful vision for Geoship and this material and how it could really bring Bucky's vision to life. And they started on a barn in Whidbey Island working on this. They found an investor in that area that let them use their barn to start prototyping and working with material R&D. And then later moved to Nevada City. They felt very called to move here. And Boss, our other co-founder, joined up with Morgan and his brother. They really built a beautiful foundation. Like they did all the deep R&D work, all the deep material science development and they built a prototype to actually show the world that this is possible. And they got a bit of a movement going behind it. Like there was some validation from the market that people really want this product. From my perspective, like I can't speak for Morgan, but he's just like a very low ego kind of guy who wants the best for this company. And I think what he saw was like, wow, Micha has a lot of experience doing this. Like, I don't think he was really enjoying being the CEO. It wasn't like what he himself wanted to do. Like he wanted to bring this vision to life. Yeah, it feels like an amazing match. It's really an honor.
Yeah, you can really tell. And I'm going to be, I guess, just brutally honest here. Just how much innovation and momentum it looks like you guys are having. Several years ago, whenever I first had found out about Geoship, it was like, oh, okay, another dome company. And I was like, there's a lot of them out there. And how much is this actually going to get adopted? I certainly didn't do my homework. It was just like a brief survey of the landscape. One of your team members, Jean-Marc, had responded to something that I had said on LinkedIn a couple months back. And I was like, you're doing what? I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait a second. This isn't the same company that I saw, or it certainly isn't the same company that I thought that I saw. For those that are not familiar with Geoship, where do you really see the adoption in the marketplace of this type of home product?
Yeah. So, I like to share with people like, what would the world look like if we could build a house that's like 3 times better than any home on the market, but it costs half the price of like your average home on the market? Like that would really bring transformational change to the world. Like, what if that home was actually less than the cost of your rent in whatever city you live in or whatever suburb you live in? That's transformational. So the value proposition to 3x better is a home that's climate resilient, it's fireproof, it's hurricane resilient, earthquake resilient. It's a home that's good for the environment. It's very low carbon footprint, very efficient to operate, 70% reduction in energy use for heating and cooling, like a super, super efficient home. It's a home that's healthy. It's made of all natural materials. So this bioceramic composite, it's basically made of all raw minerals that are in your body. So imagine living in a structure where all the parts of the structure, the frame, the insulation, the siding, the interior walls, the countertops, the cabinets, like the floors, they're actually made of minerals that exist in your body. So you're living in a biocompatible structure, like no toxins, no VOCs, like zero. The average home now has like 800 toxic chemicals that are like really, really bad for you that are used in common building products that you get exposed to living in your home every day. And then it's a material that won't mold. Mold is a major problem. Like over 40% of homes in the US will test positive for black mold. So we solve all those issues. We solve the scalability issue. It's a factory built product. So we drive all the complexity into engineering and manufacturing. So when your job site is no longer a construction site, it is now an installation site. We basically bring the 500 pieces required to build your home and we install it as a system of parts. And what that enables us to do is with a team of 6 people, we can install a 1,600 square foot home in under 4 weeks. We don't have to go through the same kind of inspection processes of a typical home build because we're factory certified at the state level. So we come to the cities with a set of stamped plans that don't require inspection because we're following the factory built housing protocol to install this home. So that enables a lot of scalability. The biggest problem in the home building industry today is we have a lack of skilled labor. The average age of a construction worker just keeps going up every decade. And then that in turn solves the affordability crisis. Like we have a major affordability crisis in housing. When I graduated college, like almost 25, 30 years ago, like anyone could buy a home who had a decent job. Anybody. You had a job, you could buy a home. Like that's how easy it was. Now it's like I'm talking to people who are like, I think the stat is 70% of people under 35 can no longer afford a home. Like 70% of people under 35, like they're not even like you can't even get into a home by 35. Like that's just like not acceptable. So, so these 5 problems we can all solve with this one technology. And when I look at all the other home builders out there, they all solve 1 or 2 of these problems and they're making trade-offs. So they might have a home that's more expensive, but better for the environment, or maybe it's cheaper, but it's way more toxic and it's going to end up in a landfill in 40 years. And it's like everyone's making the trade-off game. And what Geoship did so beautifully is they actually thought about the entire home from first principles. So what's the most efficient geometry to build a home? Well, it's a geodesic dome. That geodesic dome actually costs half as much to build than a rectilinear home. But it's actually more beautiful and it's got a lot more light and a lot more windows and higher ceilings. And like it has a lot of benefits in the same square footage. But you can actually afford double the size home with that same mortgage payment. So that just makes sense. And then the materials, like all manufacturing right now is like either additive, subtractive, or formative. Like we're actually injection molding our materials to make all the parts of this home so there's zero waste. And the materials are really affordable. They're just like raw minerals. And we'll get to the point several years from now where we're actually 100% of our minerals are going to come from waste streams, where we're taking reclaimed closed loop ecosystems, lithium mining, saltwater desalination, like wastewater treatment facilities. We're pulling their minerals that would end up in landfills and we're turning them into homes. That's a major solution to a very like challenging materials problems with building all these millions of homes that we're short of. And then just like the first principles innovation in the installation process and the factory built housing, it just all the different pieces add up to create a home that's like way better than any home on the market, but way more affordable to the end consumer. So then what does that enable? That enables people to live closer, to be closer with their neighbors, to be more connected with nature, to actually create villages and rethink the way we build communities and villages. So they don't have to be these like cookie cutter boxes that are just spread out in the suburbs that are like, that inspire no connection between your neighbors. Like we can actually rethink the way we build communities in a way that enhances people's lives and makes their lives more beautiful, more fulfilling, more meaningful. So I think that's what the technology enables to do. And that's, as a founding team, that's what we're committed to doing. We're not building a company to get rich or make money here. We're building it to like really change the way we live as humans on this planet and really improve how the built world could make this world a better place.
I love that. I see why they called you in now. You can talk through that quite eloquently.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Hamlet Capital, an exciting new endeavor I founded to invest in the future of thriving communities. If you're developing an agri-hood or conservation community, you know how complex these projects can be. From land acquisition and master planning to entitlements and securing investment capital, there's a fine line between a stalled out vision and a thriving built reality. That's where Hamlet Capital comes in. We provide development, advisory, and investment solutions that align financial returns with environmental and social impact, helping bring projects to life in a way that's both financially viable and deeply impactful. So if you're working on a project and need guidance or capital, or if you're looking to invest at the intersection between real estate and regenerative agriculture, reach out and let's build something lasting together. Visit us at hamlet.capital. Micha, because we've got a background with a company called Latitude that is focused on real estate sales. A lot of development takes place. People are trying to figure this out of like, how do we build something that's going to fit our budget? What is that strategy to take a home product like Geoship, find its initial tribe of customers, and then what is that price per square foot that I'm sure comes up within the first 3 questions, maybe the first 2 questions? Is it available, and how much does it cost? I'd love to know, get under the hood a little bit more of what that strategy is to find those folks.
Yeah. And maybe I'll just start out with like where we're at as a company. When I joined the team, they had some really great material science work done and they built a prototype. And then we had to bring in a team of people to engineer a product. So we're like 90% of the way through that process of engineering the product, getting all the regulatory approvals, and building out the manufacturing systems that are scalable to bring this product to market. So how do we industrialize the manufacturing? We built the first one by hand.
Because we've got a background with a company called Latitude that is focused on real estate sales.
Literally within a month right now,
trying to figure this out of
going live with
how do we build something that's going to fit our budget?
First home for a
what is that strategy?
So we're still very early stage.
A home product like Geoship,
but
find
ambitions are
its initial tribe of customers,
thousands and then tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and then millions of homes. So we are making all our decisions to optimize for the capacity to achieve the highest scale at the most affordable prices. So you asked about the market and the price point. So the market's been phenomenal. Like we've actually pre-sold over 1,600 homes to individuals. And that represents over $330 million in pre-orders that we already have on our books. And they paid a deposit down. They put like a $500 deposit down on these homes. And then a number of those people increased their deposit from $500 to $33,000 to secure their delivery spot in the next year. So we're currently working through those deliveries. Now, the very first domes we deliver are going to be Founder Edition domes. What's a Founder Edition dome? It's like super high end, very premium. It's got like the curved glass door in the shower. It's got the gorgeous countertops. It's got like just all the beautiful textures and finishes you'd expect out of like a high end home. It actually feels like a $500, $600 a square foot home, but it's half the price. It's $300 a foot instead of $600 a foot. Now, that is like how we get to market. It's still a great value proposition and a great value in the price relative to what it would cost to build a new home in California. But it's not enough. Like we actually want to get the cost to build this home and deliver to a customer to under $100 a foot, that's like a big stretch goal, but we're confident we can get it in the low hundreds. And we think there's a good chance we can get it under 100, but we got a lot of work to do to get there. That's not going to like happen overnight. That's going to be like a 3 to 5 year journey. We're at the Tesla Roadster moment that was like 2008. It was like 6-7 years later till the Model 3 came out, where it's like, hey, now the entry-level version of the Model 3 with maintenance is less than the cost of Corolla, and it's a really transformative car. Over time, we're going to continually be improving the way we're building these homes, reducing the amount of materials we use, improving our engineering so we can keep driving down the cost more. So we have the pathway to lower the cost down. I do believe we're going to be profitable within our first few installs, which I don't think there's a single, if anyone out there corrects me on this, like I'd appreciate it, because I haven't been able to find another factory built housing company that was profitable within their first like 10 units.
No, there's like elephant graveyard of companies that have.
Yeah. So we were actually shooting to be profitable unit economics on our first unit. We missed that target because we're optimizing for speed over cost right now. And we just want to get to market so we can raise some more money. Because you really have to just prove yourself in the world. And at a certain point, you have to like calculate that decision matrix. Like, okay, we can try to like hit profitable unit economics, or we could just get it out to the market faster so we can prove to the world that this is possible. And then we can raise the money to kind of take those next steps. So we're optimizing for speed right now. We do have some amazing early customers that have invested a lot of money in Geoship, and they're getting priority deliveries, and they're willing to pay the high price for the premium version. So we're going to sell the premium version for the first couple of years, and then we're going to start being able to scale things up faster and lower the price for everybody to get their home. And that's the part that's hardest actually in this job, is how many people like see this vision, they really want it, and they can't afford a home right now. And it's like, they're like, oh, I have to wait 3 years, I have to wait 4 years. And it's like, I wish there was a way we can do it differently. And it pains us, but like, to tell our fans out there, our commitment, like the depth of our commitment is for those people. Like, that's why we're here. And we are not going to like abandon them. And it might look like, hey, they're selling some expensive homes right now. It's like, sure, they're not expensive relative to the build quality, but they're not the cost down versions yet. These are the premium versions we're selling it.
Well, that's quite the ambitious goal. And just for people to maybe, we've got a pretty professional audience, but for folks that don't understand those price points, if you can get it down to $100 a square foot, that's almost cheaper than what you can build an industrial building for. And think just that's air inside of 10 walls, pretty much. So that is an incredible feat if you're able to really set your compass on that heading. You touched on the fundraising, and I guess this is the fun part of where my curiosity leads, is like there's an incredible value proposition from the actual product itself, but the journey that Geoship seems to be going on, from first raising money through a crowdfund, it looked like, and then angel investors, and then another crowdfund. It seems like you guys are going on this very different capital raising path. And I'm curious if you can shed light around like, how did that strategy form, and really where do you take it? Like, do you see this as a company that is going to scale and go public, or something different?
Yeah. So, to start out, our company is founded as a SPC. It's a special purpose corporation. So it allows us to hold multiple mandates in addition to just returning profit and money to our shareholders. So we've really ingrained our values and our vision for the impact we want to have in the world to be right up there with being able to return money for investors. But all that being said, like, our investors are very important to us, and we believe there's an opportunity here to return insanely significant returns to our investors. Like, if we even capture like 3-5% market share, we're going to be 1,000x plus return to our investors compared to where we're at right now. So still a lot of opportunity there, but a lot of people are trying to create companies that are outside the system. It's like people like, oh, I don't like the system. The system's broken. It's corrupt. It's, it's not functioning. It's all driven by profit and it's like capitalism. And we're kind of looking at it as like the bridge, like we're the bridge. It's like there's the old world, and then there's people building the new world, and we're kind of like creating the bridge. So what does that look like? Like Patagonia is like the gold standard for like a multi-stakeholder cooperative that's driven by a perpetual purpose-driven trust. That is where we're headed with this company, but it happens over time. It happens post-IPO over a 10-year period. We progressively decentralize this company, and we introduce stakeholders to our decision-making boards, like for people representing nature, representing our customer, representing our employees. And we progressively get there, but we progressively get there so we can use the public markets and use those mechanisms to fund the growth of this company and to continue to deliver returns to shareholders, which is required to scale something like this. We're going to need billions of dollars to make this dream a reality. So you can't do that without accessing these markets. Like, you can't do that just by being a nonprofit or a company that's not focused on returning value to shareholders. So we're kind of using the best of both worlds. So our deepest commitment is to only work with investors that are completely aligned with our values and our long-term vision. We're totally upfront with them. There's zero chance that we have any interest in selling this company to anybody ever. We are only here to grow this mission and to make this one of the most impactful home building platforms on the planet. This is a tool to create this regenerative world, these regenerative communities where people are closer to nature. That's our North Star. So people just know that up front. We're going to optimize for that outcome over an offer to buy us out from some big home building company, because that's not what we're in this for. people are going to be in it for the long term. So it's like it's at least a 7-year exit, maybe a 10 to 12-year exit for IPO. We don't know yet. We'll see how things go the next couple of years, but I think that's the kind of like time frame. And the investors have been phenomenal. Like the crowdfunding campaign's been just absolutely incredible. People have fell in love with this concept. They've pre-ordered. We're giving like discounts to our investors. We're giving priority delivery to our investors. And we have thousands of investors in this company right now. And half of it has come from very small investments. $222 is our minimum investment. And half of it has come from people that have been like at a dinner with one of our ambassadors or one of those $222 investors, and they're talking about Geoship and they're so passionate about it. And then that person calls us and digs in and they end up putting $1 million on the company. Like it's nuts. Like we literally get random calls like at least once a month from somebody who ends up putting in $250,000 to like, $1 million. Like and we're not even like trying to find those people. They're finding us. That's been beautiful. People really resonate with the concept. They want to support things that are creating a better world. They want to get a return on their investment, and we can offer all of that to them. And we've got the most incredible community. So we haven't raised a lot of money so far. It's been, less than $10 million to date. We just extended our seed round a little bit to accommodate some extra regulatory costs and things that we needed to get to market. And then later this year, we're launching our big round. So that's going to be like a Series A. Like it's going to be the first like big round where we're raising like $20-30 million. We're open to working with some larger institutions in that if they're completely aligned with our values and completely aligned with our vision. We're not willing to make any compromises there. Also, if we do end up getting a big check from an institution, we're 100% committed to launching an equity crowdfunding campaign alongside that to give access to any retail investors. Really, we want to see like the mom and pops and the people that can't afford to put more than $200-300 into this company for that to actually make a difference in their life. If you get 1,000x return on a $300 investment and it turns into 300,000 and that like materially supports their life, like that's insane, and we want to give that opportunity to them. And I always tell people like, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. We're still an early stage company. I find myself talking down investors quite a bit because people get really excited about what we're doing. And, I try to make them present that there's still risk here. But the exciting part is almost all the risks are like, we're kind of getting at the end of the risk curve. Like we got the team, we engineered the product, we're about to get our regulatory approvals, we're about to build our first unit. By the time that's all done, we've de-risked the majority of the kind of startup risk. And now it's just about execution, operations, and scaling.
Do you ever get any pushback from those larger investors for the crowdfunding campaign?
I'm just like, okay, great. It's not for you. Have a nice day.
Why do you think that is?
It's threatening their model. It's a different model. Right now, it's still relatively small share of investments or crowdfunding. But if we don't need the VCs and the customers of the product and the people passionate can fund the companies, that it just disintermediates them. So the VCs will tell me like, it's not true price discovery. I need professional investors who know what they're doing to prove to me that your valuation is accurate. Like you need a lead investor. But we do have quite a few smart money investors in our company. Like we have people that have been legendary investors, in Silicon Valley that have invested in our company, and some really incredible investors that have staked their whole career on investing. And, so it's just about finding the right people. The VCs that get it are the ones that are like, wow, like where'd you get this 300 million in pre-orders? And I'm like, we got it from our customers because they're our investors and they want the product. And they get it. They're like, okay, you're marketing the investment, and then those people are becoming, early customers, and they're seeing the fanaticism, they're seeing the movement behind it, they're seeing the early adoption, like the kind of energy behind it, and they're like, yes, I want to be part of that. Don't worry about the people that say no or the people that aren't aligned with your way of doing it. You're here to work with the people that are aligned and that see what you're seeing.
I think that's really savvy, though. I mean, so much of, especially if you're new in entrepreneurship, just understanding how to put a company together, and then realizing that if you're taking seed money and you're talking to your attorney about that, like they're sending you down this very traditional path. They're telling you about, oh, well, there is crowdfunding, but we really don't do that. We don't know enough about it. Your investors might not like that either. This is all stuff that we've also gotten in our experience. So I think there's, on the other side of that, like you can craft a really savvy fundraising strategy to actually have your investors be your customers and vice versa. You also touched on an ambassador program. was it Bodie Miller, the skier, is an ambassador for you? Did I see that?
Yeah. He was one of our early investors, and he was an ambassador, and he still is an ambassador. He loves what we're doing, and we're committed to scaling up some projects to kind of take back mountain towns with him. It's like a lot of mountain towns have just gotten crazy overpriced, and there's no affordable housing, and we're going to kick off a campaign in the future that really brings Geoship to all these mountain towns that have kind of been taken over, and gives a place to stay, a great place to live, like for the people that live there year round.
That's so cool. How do you choose those ambassadors? Like what does that program look like?
Anybody can apply. John Mark runs the program, and there's information on our website about it. Anyone can apply. Basically, the ambassadors, they get early access to information. They're kind of on the inside here. We float things by them. We ask them for advice. We ask them for help. They're just like some of our most engaged fans, and they want to show up for us. They want to do things. So we basically put them to work and say hey, help us out. This is what would help us this month. Does anybody know somebody who can help us with this? It's a growing group of people, and they provided a lot of value for us. The best companies have a really engaged group of followers that are out there promoting the company and supporting the company. And just, we want to be here to nurture that. People want to contribute to Geoship. So I'm yes, show up. Let's set up this program so we can help you contribute to us, and contribute to yourself. Most of our ambassadors are investors. Most of them are they're shareholders, it's their company too. I think it's a beautiful synergy. And
yeah, that's fascinating. Micha, I want to pivot just a little bit here, because we just came back from a conference in Austin that I was able to drop in on sessions that you're a part of. And it was really interesting. One, the amount of talk around AI there's been. And I'm curious how you're integrating that within your company, because I know that you guys have talked about community ownership models and embedding AI within that. And I don't think that really comes across on your website very loud. I mean, it's very much, this is what Geoship is as a home product. But what does the future look like for you guys?
Yeah, happy to talk about it. Not something we really promote on the website yet. It's more kind of the long-term vision of where we're headed. But we're using AI tools every single day. And I tell every team member, if you're not using AI an hour plus a day, you're probably not using it enough. And I'm encouraging people to use it more and more. And it's so helpful in helping us accelerate what we're doing in the world. Living in community is challenging. And there's a huge spectrum of community, everything from an HOA to a kibbutz, and everything in between. And in a kibbutz, if people aren't familiar with kibbutzes, it's people join a kibbutz for life. You put all your finances into it, everything's shared. It's you are a family, you are a community, you take care of people through every ups and downs, through thick and thin. And that's how a kibbutz is. And an HOA is you pay your HOA dues, and if you violate the rules, you're out, or whatever, we fine you. And then there's everything in between. I've got a community called Family Valley here, and it's I would say it's in the middle. It's much more connected than HOA. We have dinner together once a week. We're all contributing to land projects and restoration projects and, fire mitigation projects. And we're showing up as a community, but we're we all make our own money, have our own jobs, have our own kitchens. We're not merging our lives all together. So the hardest thing, even doing a community like we're doing, where it's you are so connected with your neighbors, and some people co-own this project with us, that, is the personal dynamics. It's how do you bring the people together that are really aligned to contribute under the shared vision? And then how do you continue to cohere those people? How do you deal with the problems that come up, the issues that come up, when someone's upset about the way someone did something, or, and they're not able to get in each other's world. And I think AI is going to unlock the golden age in community living. And, the reason right now is that community is really hard. It's hard to cohere, but when you do it well, the payoffs are just huge. My wife and I will go on vacation, and our kids are staying with our neighbor, and we don't have to hire babysitters. And it's we're all sharing these amazing shared resources. We have a community gym that we built together, and we outfitted together, and we all get to use. And, we got to build that with 17 people. It's I didn't have to go do it myself in my house, in my garage. And now I have this one gym that I enjoy. It's we're all enjoying it together, so there's a lot of economies of scale and benefits of living in a community, of people showing up for each other in different ways. If it just wasn't so hard, so how can the AI solve in that? It's like AI is just being more and more powerful of really like supporting people and dealing with their own personal challenges and helping see things through different lenses. And also, we'd imagine a world where the AI is actually supporting people in like connecting in communities and connecting them to the right community where people have the right shared alignment and values and actually highlighting potential problems between different people so they can like even start to cohere on how they're going to work together before they move in together in a community. And then when issues come up, like the AI is going to help resolve those issues with the people. Like you're not having to pay these high priced mediators or therapists to like help people kind of get through their challenges, but the AI is doing that for you. So I think it's going to create the golden age of community living. And we kind of look at Geoship as a company that's here to provide the technology and the platforms, the building technology, the AI technology, the governance platforms that allow people to experiment with their own versions of community living. We imagine a world where you buy a Geoship in a community, in a Geoship community. We have thousands of communities all over the country. We tokenize your real estate so you can then take your equity in your home and you can move it to any other home in the community. So if you move into a community after college and it's a very young community and it's focused on like entrepreneurship and changing the world and, helping each other out with that. And everyone's like, it's a certain vibe. And then you like start a family and you have kids and you're like, this isn't really like, I want to live with other families. And you could just take your equity, move it to another community and, like kind of graduate in different communities, different homes based on your life needs with making that problem or that process really like seamless and efficient. Or let's say you're living in the Bay Area and you get a job in Texas and you want to move to Texas. Like you just take your equity with you to a Geoship community over there. It's as easy as pulling up your app and like picking your new home and transferring your equity over. And you don't have to sign thousands of papers and deal with real estate brokers and everything. And I know you're like, you do that, but, I think we could make this really easy within the network. And we don't talk about this a lot because it's really like, this vision is like 5 to 10 years out there. It's not what we're doing today. It's like what we're doing today is proving this technology, lowering the cost, proving we can scale this. But what we really want to do is create a platform that allows people to experiment with different ways of living that supports everybody to live a more connected life on this planet. And that's how we see ourselves doing that. So it's going to be a minute, which is why, it's not quite ready for the website yet, but that's the world we're trying to create.
Well, Micha, it is really fascinating. I think you've got to be playing the long game like that. Certainly looking at how we can live in community after an era of living in isolation and siloed little boxes, and really realizing that we don't have the tools or the emotional intelligence to do that. And however that looks, I think that's going to be a game changer that continues to open up and catalyze a new way to inhabit the planet. So if you've got an eye towards that future as well as the actual product, I think that's great. One of the things, and this is just, I wrote it down in the middle of our conversation of like, I wonder if they're going to come out with Geoship furniture just to meet those curvatures of the dome walls. Well, Micha, what's a good way for people to follow along? Maybe they're ready to check you out, order a dome, become an investor. Like, how do people stay engaged within the community of Geoship?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us at our website, geoship.com, and find us on social media. We're pretty much on every platform. Be great to stay connected to all of you that are interested in learning more and interested in joining us for this journey. And we are going to be making furniture. So we're working with furniture designers that are making different furniture sets and different designs and styles that are designed to fit perfectly in these homes. This is home as a product. So if you're selling thousands of the same home and somebody designs the perfect couch for that home or the perfect like furniture, like, yeah, people are going to love that. It's like, wow, this furniture was designed for my home. I'm not trying to like piece things together. The challenges the dome creates are very solvable. Furniture, where am I going to put my pictures and all this stuff? Like those things are easy to solve. But what it enables is a home that's half the cost and way more beautiful and way more energetically like connected to humans. You see, we don't see boxes in nature. We don't see like, it's like you see curved shapes. Like the dome is like, it is the most natural kind of structure to live in from a geometry perspective. And it feels amazing to be inside it. Like it really energetically like is going to lift people up. I think people are going to really love it.
This is my last question for you, is that Buckminster Fuller popularized geodesic domes. Then there's this flurry of activity of builders that are really interested in this. But then some of the main criticisms that came out of that was just like, there's not a good way to have that vernacular nature of like, we need to add on to our house. Like we have an expanding family, or, mother-in-law is coming to live with us now and we've got to tack on a bedroom. How do you really foresee Geoship handling those kinds of living design challenges?
No, I think we're going to make this fully kind of customizable, can grow with you. So you can add on a different dome. You can rip out all the interior components and put in a new interior system that's going to reshape and turn it from like a 3-bedroom to a 1-bedroom when your kids move out. And so you have a much more space for yourself. Like we can envision that future because it's a product. Like Bucky called these wooden spaceships. And, what does he mean by that? It's like you wouldn't ever make a spaceship out of wood. A friend of Bucky's was writing about his life, and he quoted Bucky as saying that it was going to be 50 to 100 years before there's a breakthrough in material science that allows this technology to scale. And here we are like 50 years later, and it's like, it's here. It is this formative manufacturing of this material is what is going to enable his vision to like truly come to life. And Bucky was such a visionary, and he had such a beautiful way of looking at the world. And, like we very much like live by his mission, which is to make the world work for 100% of humanity without any ecological harm to the planet, and really bring that to life. And I think his vision for this, the technology is finally here to fulfill it. And I think we could solve all those problems with a productized approach. There's tens of thousands of 36-foot domes out there. It's like, sure, it's like we could have a whole kit that like it's like, okay, I want to modify my dome. Like, let's go. So we haven't developed all that out. That's still like on the future roadmaps, but we're going to make that happen. And we're also going to make it easy to move from one dome to another dome.
Micha, I so appreciate the insights. I think it's really fascinating. I am certainly a convert. I will tell you that. It's been fun to get to know. You got some fantastic people on your team as well. It's really a pleasure to get to meet them. And for those of you guys that have not gone to Geoship's website, it's a beautiful product. Like I think that certainly sells itself from the interior shots and just seeing, wow, this is not just your like glamp dome that you're going to throw in the backyard. So I hope it goes well, and we're going to have you come on for another update whenever you really pick up momentum.
We'll have to have you out to Nevada City for our launch party this fall when we finish building our first dome for our first customer.
Oh, I'm coming. Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Neal.
That is a wrap on today's episode, but I don't want this to be a one-way conversation. I'd love to hear about the projects and ideas you're working on. The best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Just search Neal Collins. And if my team at Hamlet Capital or Latitude Regenerative Real Estate can help bring your vision to life, whether it's buying or selling a home or developing a community integrated within a farm, do not hesitate to reach out. Let's build something meaningful together.